Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurmilitanjena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Dandavat pranams to all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis. So we have our Thursday Q&A, and I do have a question that came up at the end of our last meeting and we didn't have time for. So I'm going to go into that. And it was a very interesting question. It was, I believe, from Jagannath Vallabha Prabhu. What should be our aspiration in all the different spiritual places or stages of devotion? What should be our aspiration in all the different spiritual places or stages of devotion? Very nice question. I believe it was in response to the fact that we last week one of the verses of Upadeshamrita came up of Srila Rupa Goswami, the 9th verse, I believe it is, where Rupa Goswami is discussing the gradation in devotion, right? That verse, Vaikunta Janito Vadamadupodi Tatsapira Sotsava, this verse where Rupa Goswami is outlining the gradation from Vaikunta to Mathura to Vrindavan to Govardhan and ultimately to Radha Kund. Jagannath Vallabhu, welcome. We're discussing your question from last week right now, which, to recap again, what should be our aspiration, all the different spiritual places or stages of devotion? Very nice question. And I believe it was in response to that verse from Upadeshamrita that came up, where Rupa Goswami is outlining the different stages of devotion, different planes of the Lord's divine play, right? Different fields of divine play, which, and this is, of course, all tied in very much to rasa, right? Different types of relationships, different levels of intensity of connection with the Lord. And of course, this is quite a high topic. But then I like the fact that Jagannath Vallabha, in your question, you're kind of just looking at this from a more broad point of view and picking up on this general point, right? The point of making progress, right? And welcome, Nazar. Happy you can join us today. This is a broader point, right? Like, okay, we're not exactly at that level or far from it, right? Of entering these very high service planes. But at the same time, in a more general sense, we're all on a progressive path. And there will be, as we progress on that path, right, there will be some changes, right, in our service connection, in our relationships with the Vaishnavas. And one day, perhaps many lifetimes from now, we may also have entrance into these higher planes of divine service. So then we could approach this question in this way, with this framework, right? That there are variables and there are constants. There are the things that are going to change along the way, and there are those things which are not going to change, which are going to be constants. And so I think in this question you're asking, like, what is going to be consistent, right, as we're making progress, moving through different service environments. What is going to be consistent? What will be our aspiration? What will be the thread, right, of aspiration that links us from one place to another, right, that ties it all together? What is that fundamental aspiration, you could also say, which is progressive, right, which is keeping us in a progressive mode in our spiritual life? So it's a quite a profound point to consider And so there were different things, I meditated on this a little bit and different things come to mind. Um, but I suppose the fundamental connecting thread is Sharanagati, right? The spirit of Sharanagati, that mood of surrender, right? And that we want to be of service, we want to offer ourselves, we want to, we are fulfilled, most deeply fulfilled, profoundly fulfilled by the least connection, right? We are happy to have the least service in connection with that higher plane. And this is actually something which will bring us to a higher place, right? That if our guardians, if our divine guardians see that we are very earnest in our desire to have connection with the least service, their tendency will be to bring us up, right? And of course, this cannot just be a ploy, right? Like a tool, some type of calculation, but this must be something that comes from the heart, right? And if we have the right association and we are practicing properly, we're hearing properly, then the real feeling will come out in our hearts. So that is one key thing, right? The spirit of Sharanagati, the spirit of service, right? Sevaya. And then another point too that will be consistent, right, is that if we are practicing Sharanagati, that the word Sharanagati means to take shelter, right? Sharan means shelter, right? And Sharanagati means that we are going to take shelter. That's part of the meaning of the word, the etymology of the word, right? So that implies that there is that divine entity, that divine guardian unto whom we are taking shelter. So if we are following the path of Sharanagati, there will be that person, right, Sri Guru, right, under whom we are living our life of Sharanagati. And so the connection of Sri Guru, right, whether that is Diksha Guru, Shiksha Guru, that is not so important, but the connection of Guru, right, our divine guide, that will be highly prominent at whatever phase, whatever stage of progress we are at, or whatever service plane we are in. The feeling, that need for shelter, that will be consistent, right? And I was reminded of there's this beautiful, very heart-touching prayer of Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, where he's expressing this mood of devastation, right, in the absence of Sri Guru, right? After Rupa Goswami left the world, right? Rupa Goswami was his guru, who he took shelter of. After the departure of Mahaprabhu, Raghunath took shelter of Rupa Goswami, right? Raghunath Das Goswami, he had 16 years of association with Mahaprabhu and Srup Damodar, right? Srup Damodar was his guardian, right? So he was serving Mahaprabhu under the guidance and shelter of Srila Srup Damodar Goswami. But then, so that was 16 years in Puri, Jagannath Puri. But then finally Mahaprabhu left the world, and Srup Damodar, he also left almost immediately after Mahaprabhu. He couldn't tolerate his separation. And so we hear that, after that, Raghunath, he thought, well, what's the purpose of living? What's the purpose of maintaining my life? and so he decided to commit suicide, right? And so he went to Govardhan and he had a plan. He was going to jump from Govardhan Hill, right? Of course, normally suicide is considered highly sinful in the Vedic conception, but there are special cases, right, where it may be performed in a particular way and with you know, the particular approach to it, right? There's like there's permissible suicides in special cases. And so Raghunath, he had planned this. He was going to jump from Govardhan Hill and end his life. But then when he reached Vrindavan, he came into the association of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami, and he felt he got a new lease of life, and he felt, oh, Mahaprabhu has not left. I thought Mahaprabhu had left the world, but I'm finding he's alive and present in the hearts of his devotees here, Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. And so he felt this new beginning in his life. And so he took shelter of them. And Raghunath, right, he's known as our Prayojan Acharya, right? He is the Acharya who has shown us most clearly, even more clearly than Rupa Goswami, who is the head of our Sampradaya. Srila Sridhar Maharaj points this out, right? Raghunath has shown more clearly what is the ultimate end of our line, what is the goal, the objective of our line. That Raghunath has shown us more clearly, and so therefore he's known as the Prayojan Acharya. And so, he's written these incredible prayers, right? Particularly expressing the aspiration for service to Srimati Radharani, right? So Radha Dasyam, the service of Sri Radha, this is the ultimate end of our line. And so Raghunath has shown this very clearly, right? He has written some unparalleled prayers aspiring for the service and connection of Radharani. And so he had this deep affinity for Srimati Radharani. He also had this deep affinity for Govardhan. Govardhan, as we were discussing last week, is very much at the heart of our aspiration, or the aspiration of our gurus, the aspiration for shelter in Govardhan. And we discussed the reason for that last week. And so when you think of Raghunath, you think of Govardhan, right? You think of Radha Kund. He spent his last days at Radha Kund, and to this day you can see where he had his place of residence, his bhajan kutir, beside Radha Kund, in Govardhan. So Govardhan was everything to him, Radha Kund was everything to him. But what's very significant is that we see that after Rupa Goswami left the world, right? Sanatan Goswami also left, and then Rupa Goswami, who Raghunath particularly had affinity for, Rupa also left, right? And so Raghunath, he was left alone, right? And he wrote these incredible prayers expressing this very deep mood of separation. And they're quite astonishing, actually. There's one where he's saying, it's really astounding. He's saying that all of these things which previously were so dear to me, so beloved to me, now in the absence of my guru, they have become fearful, right? And there's this shunyayate mahagoshtam grinjo jagarayate. He's saying that this Govardhan now looks like a python, looks like a giant snake coming to devour me, right? In the absence of my guru, shunyayate, there's this void, right? In the absence of the shelter of guru, there now these things which were previously so dear to me, they have become fearful, right? So Govardhan now looks like a python, right? Radha Kund looks like a tiger coming to devour me. Now I feel these things, they are not so friendly, right? Without the shelter of Sri Guru, right? And our Gurudev, he's also given this wonderful analogy, right? That's depicted in our mat logo of the disciples represented by the lotus flower, right? The lotus flower in the water of Sri Guru. So the water is representing Guru, and the sun is Krishna, is representing Krishna. So that lotus flower, if it was just directly exposed to the sun, it would be burnt up, right? But because the lotus flower is sheltered in the water of Sri Guru, then it is nourished, the sun becomes nourishing. But without the shelter of the water, the sun will burn that delicate flower. So it's a very perfect analogy, right? That if we approach Krishna directly, we could not tolerate it, right? We would be burnt by the intensity of his beauty, actually. We cannot tolerate his level of beauty. But because we are in the shelter of Guru, then we are nourished by that Krishna sun. Right? And so this is another point, right? That to have the shelter of Guru, to have the shelter of Vaishnava, this is something that we always want to have, that we will always aspire for, right? And this may change, right? Who is that guide, who is that shelter, it may change at different stages in our progressive life of devotion, as also in the case of Raghunath, right? Raghunath, he was initially under the shelter, under the guidance of Sri Damodar and also Mahaprabhu himself, but they both left the world. He was alone. But then later he found new shelter in Rup and Sanatan, right? And then we can also think here, what is actually the meaning of Guru? Guru, as Srila Sridhar Maharaj explains, Guru is a principle. Guru is an aspect of the Lord himself, right? Guru is the via media, who is giving us connection with the Lord, right? And so Guru will not necessarily only be one, right? Kaviraj Goswami, the very first words of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vande Gurun, first two words of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Vande Gurun, plural, right? Guru is plural. I offer my respects to all of my gurus, right? So Guru is a principle of the absolute, whereby the absolute, the infinite is coming to connect with us, right? And so we always want to try to find, where is that voice of Sri Guru coming to me, right? Our Gurudev, he liked that advert. I don't know if it's in America or not, but it's this music production company, right? HMV. It was in England anyway, but that HMV, it stands for His Master's Voice, right? And of course, nowadays it's all changed, but like maybe going back 100 years or so, they had an advertising campaign that was depicting a dog running to a gramophone, right? The gramophone has his master's voice blaring from it. And so he's running to that because he's hearing the voice of his master. So he's following the voice of his master. And so our Gurudev used that, right, very brilliantly, right? Saying that like that, we are trying to always hear where is the voice of Sri Guru, right? So that is something that we always want to try to find in our life of progress. Where is our shelter? Where is our Guru? Under who are we taking, who is our divine guide, right? Where do I find that link, that connection? Where do I hear the voice of Guru? That is something that we always want to have. And that it's not that we'll ever get to a stage where we don't feel like that. It's not that there's a particular level of advancement where we don't need it anymore, right? Because there are some schools of thought, you'll find they think like that, like guru is a tool, right? It will help me get to a certain place, and then I'll be great enough. I don't need guru. No, one will always feel, right? One will always feel that. Mahaprabhu himself, right? He shows that example. Mahaprabhu himself takes a guru just to show us the example, right? Mahaprabhu himself takes initiation, takes shelter of guru. He also shows that example. So that is a healthy feeling for us to always have, that I need the connection of Sri Guru. And as I said, right, that may not be one person or one voice. It may be many. You know, we want to embrace the plurality of Sri Guru. That's a mature understanding of what Guru means. It doesn't have to be limited. The shelter of the holy name, that was another point that came to mind. The shelter of the holy name. You know, that is something that will be consistent, right? And even we hear Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's made this point, you know, that, you know, there may be times, of course, it is a very sad thing, but there may be times in our life of devotion when we feel we don't have any guide, right? And for example, if our guru leaves in whatever way that is, right? Then Srila Sridhar Maharaj, he's given the advice to take shelter of the holy name. Right? You know, even in some oh, thank you, Gangalila. Gangalila found it. Yeah, exactly it. His master's voice. Isn't that charming? Yeah. So this is the advice that Srila Sridhar Maharaj gave, right? To take shelter of the holy name. If we face these circumstances in our life for whatever reason, there may be 101 reasons why that happens, you know, that we feel we don't have any shelter. Then Srila Sridhar Maharaj says, we will take shelter of the holy name, right? And we are always praying for association. Association is the greatest wealth of our life. But there may come that circumstance at different times when we don't have it. And in that case, we take shelter of the holy name. And I was also remembering the example of Gopakumar, right? Gopakumar, described by Sanatana Goswami, right, in his Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Sanatana Goswami is describing, again, the gradation of devotion, right? The development of different stages of devotion. And so how is it that Gopakumar, he's representing a progressive soul, right? And he's moving from different planes of consciousness, lower to higher, right? Until he ultimately reaches Goloka Vrindavan and takes shelter and reaches the embrace of Krishna, right? But what is it that is what is it that is consistent, right, in his life of progress? That he received a mantra from his guru, right? And he is chanting that mantra, right? And that mantra has its own trajectory, right? And that mantra takes him, right? That mantra is what is propelling him, right? Because Gopakumar, he receives this mantra, and what does that mean? Actually, he's received an aspiration, right? That mantra is containing an aspiration. And so that mantra has its own will and own desire to take him to where it came from, right? That mantra has its source in Goloka Vrindavan, and so that mantra wants to take him to Goloka Vrindavan. And he received that mantra in the proper channel. He received that mantra from his guru. And so it is a potent mantra, right? It's been received in the proper line. And so he's chanting this mantra, and this mantra is awakening this aspiration for him. And what Gopakumar experiences is that he's moving from one plane to another, but he's never quite satisfied, right? No matter where he ends up, he's not quite satisfied. Right? He even at one point he reaches the position of Lord Brahma, right? He has the position of Lord Brahma, which is the topmost sphere within the mundane universe, and a position of great power also. But he's not satisfied by that, and so he's there for some time, then some circumstances arrive, and then he moves on, right? And he goes to a higher plane. He ends up in Vaikuntha at one point, right, in the association of Lord Narayan and his devotees, but he doesn't quite fit in there, right? The mantra's pulling him up, right? And then finally, when he reaches the embrace of Krishna, as our Gurudev said very sweetly, then he's fully satisfied. Then he feels, oh, I found my place, right? And so this is also something that will always be at the heart of our progressive life, the connection of the holy name, right? The shelter of the holy name. And the Maha Mantra, this is one of the points about the Maha Mantra. The Maha Mantra is always present, right? Even in the highest plane of reality, the Maha Mantra has its place there, because sometimes we hear there are some mantras, they have they will bring you to a certain place and then they will withdraw. But our gurus have said about the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, it has its permanent place there also in the Leela of Krishna, right? It is also, that vibration is also there, right? So that connection will also be consistent, right? And by our faithful chanting of that holy name, we will promote progress, right? Jagadananda Pandit, he prays in one of his prayers, Sadhu Sangha Krishna Nam E Macha Chai, right? That he says, these are my desires, right? For association and the holy name. Right? Sadhu Sangha Krishna Nam, the name of Krishna, the holy name of Krishna, and association with the sadhus, with the Vaishnavas. Right? So these, we can say in a simple sense, these are the two constants. Right? Association of the Vaishnavas and connection with the holy name. I did take some notes. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. Do you feel satisfied by that, Jagannath Balba? Do you have any further comments or thoughts?
No, no, I am very satisfied with the answer. Very, very, very deep answer. Thank you so much. Also, I was thinking also, sorry, my English is not perfect, but I try to communicate. But can you hear me probably?
Yes,
Can you
I
hear me?
can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
I was thinking, so it's not bad to think, because Mahaprabhu in the I don't remember it's the verse or two verse that he says that birth after birth. I mean, to be a servant. It's not. I mean, that is the ideal of thinking, or maybe it's not bad to have some aspiration of serving in another plane. I don't know. maybe not here in this mortal environment, or we should to think like that. I mean, doesn't matter if I am here or wherever, I will serve the Lord. So, but I was thinking that also. So, can you
Mhm.
please give me some
Yes,
to
yes,
clarify something
yes.
about that?
Yes, that's a good question. I mean, see, we what Mahaprabhu is saying is of course the highest aspiration, right? But at the same time, we don't have to imitate that, right? Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, in a sense, you could say he's setting the benchmark, what is the real standard, right? Um, and Mama Janmani Shure Bhavatad Bhaktir Haitu Kitoi, right? That birth after birth, he's willing to embrace, right, repeated birth and death. I only want to have Tavad Bhakti Haitu Kitoi. He only wants to have pure, unmotivated devotion. This is the real standard, right? And and yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm trying to think how to approach this properly. There's different levels of progress, different standards. What I was describing now mostly was like those in a higher category. And see, the thing is, once you actually touch that divine substance, then that will be the natural response. You will feel, oh, this is so wonderful. Like, I don't care, whether I'm liberated or not. That's the thing. Like, if we have that darshan, then it won't matter to us anymore. Like for example, Dhruva Maharaj, right? The pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, right? He went into the forest and he was initially motivated by some sort of feeling of revenge, right? He was feeling very hurt that he was neglected by his father. He wanted to prove himself. And his mother tells him, go and pray to Lord Vishnu in the forest and you'll get everything you want. So that's his initial motivation, right? To approach the Lord. But then once he actually contacts the Lord, it all changes for him. And he's suddenly like, wow, you know, this is so wonderful. I don't care anymore, you know. And there's that beautiful prayer where he says, I was searching for pieces of broken glass, right? And now I have found a diamond, right? I approached the Lord with some material aspiration, like this is like broken glass, something very, you know, very unattractive and worthless, right? Worthless. My aspiration was based on something meaningless, worthless. And he says, but now that I've actually had your darshan, I feel I've found a real diamond, a real jewel. And now I don't need anything else. I don't care anymore for what I was previously searching for. Right. So this is the thing, once we actually have a drop of that divine substance, then we will understand, right? And we really won't care for anything else. We just want to have connection, and we want just to be able to remember, right? We will feel that is everything. So that's for those on a higher plane. That will be, it's not, it's, see, the thing is, it's not about shoulds or shouldn'ts, right? There's a tendency, like for those who are practicing spiritual life or religious life, because we are in a conditioned state, we tend to think in shoulds or shouldn'ts. Oh, we should do this, we should do that. But as we mature and when we actually have more of a touch of what that divine thing is, it won't, the shoulds or shouldn'ts don't matter anymore. It's about what do you want, right? So in regards to like, is it okay for us to have an aspiration to go to these higher planes of service? For us, yes. Why? Because anything that inspires us to practice spiritual life is good, right? So if we're motivated by the idea that we can get out of the cycle of birth and death, like whatever it is that's pushing us, that's good, right? Anything that's inspiring us to chant, right? Anything that's inspiring us to have association, we should go for it, right? There's one verse in Bhagavatam where Krishna is saying, how does it go? That I can't remember whether he's saying whether says that's it akama sarva kamova moksha kama udada be. He's saying that whether one is motivated by whether one is full of material desires kama, whether one is full of kama, full of material desires, whether one is akama, has no material desires, or whether one is seeking liberation moksha, right? He says one is intelligent only if they're approaching me, right? Also in Bhagavad Gita, there's that verse, right? Is it like chapter 7, maybe, where Krishna is saying, 4 types of people approach me, right? Arta, Artatika, Jigyasa, Jnani. Those who are desiring wealth, those who are suffering, those who are curious, inquisitive, and those who are actually enlightened, right? But Krishna says they're all fortunate souls, actually, because they're approaching me, right? So anything that's inspiring us to go deeper, that's a good thing, right? If we're like just exhausted from material existence, right? I don't want to take birth again. I want to go chant my japa. I want to go hear some Harikatha. Like that's good, right? It's okay. We're in a relative position right now. So sometimes we need motivation of a relative nature, right? So even if someone's attracted to approach Krishna because they want some material gain, from the absolute standpoint, that's not a good thing. But from a relative standpoint, at least they're approaching Krishna, right? So it's a good thing. So yes, if we are, in a sense, our gurus, they're coming to this world and they're holding these billboards, these advertisements, right? Look how wonderful it is, right? How wonderful is Krishna Lila, right? How wonderful is Gaura Lila? Don't you want to go there? Right? Our gurus are explicitly preaching like this, sometimes. That don't you want to go to such a wonderful place? They're inspiring us in this way, right? So we are allowed to think like that, right? It's if that's helping us to go forward, right? Then that's a good thing. But once we get deeper into this, we realize that to actually become qualified to enter that reality, we have to have no desire to go there. But the thing is, we don't have to force this upon ourselves, right? Everything's going to happen naturally in our course of progress. So we just need to stay on track, right? We just need to keep connection. And if we're inspired by the prospect that, oh, one day I can go to such a wonderful place, right? Shriya Kanta Kanta Paramapurusha Kalpatarava Jumabhumis Chintamani Ganamayi Toyam Amritam, right? Where all the trees are wish-fulfilling trees, all the water is nectar, right? Kataganam Natyam Gamanam, every word is song, every step is a dance, right? This is in the end of Brahma Samhita, right? So beautiful. Like who won't hear that and think, oh, I want to go there? Right? Who will not think like that? And our Gurudev, he loved that verse too, and he would sometimes in his preaching, chant that verse. And don't you want to go to such a wonderful place, right? So this is kind of like level one, like just get on the ship. Come get on the ship. You can read the fine print later, right? Don't worry about it. You can read the fine print later. But anyhow or other, get into this. This is for your best benefit. And then once you go deeper into the practice, you start to understand how deep this is, right? And what does it actually mean to enter that plane? Yes, the cowherd boys of Vrindavan, they're wrestling with Krishna, right? They're making Krishna carry them on their shoulders. They're sharing food with Krishna. It all looks very playful, very light, very casual. But what's in the background of all of that? They're all willing to die for Krishna a million times over, right? Like what level of sacrifice and self-giving is there, right? Mother Jashoda going to slap Krishna, right? What is behind that? The most intense kind of love and sacrifice and self-surrender, right? So Mahaprabhu's praying, right? All I want is to remember you, right? I'm not even asking for salvation. I'm not asking for liberation. That's a huge thing in the world of theology to say, I don't want salvation. That's huge. That's a major headline, right? Mahaprabhu is saying, I only want to love you. That's a revolutionary statement, right? And that's what it actually means, right? If someone actually has a touch of that, that's the feeling that will come. It will be a natural response. It will be the natural outcome. That this one drop of this divine substance is so deep, so profound, so fulfilling. It doesn't matter where I am, actually. I just want to be able to remember this, right? Keep some connection. And yesterday I was thinking about this one expression of Jiva Goswami, Srila Sridhar Maharaj liked very much. Bhajaniya Guna Vishishta, right? Jiva Goswami gives this explanation about what Bhagavan means, right? Bhagavan, normally we say Bhagavan means who has these 6 qualities, right? Of beauty, wealth, renunciation, strength, power, fame, right? That this is the standard definition of Bhagavan given in the scriptures. Bhagavan is the personal aspect of divinity, who is in full possession of these 6 qualities. But Jiva Goswami, he gives this very wonderful explanation saying that these qualities that Krishna has, they make him so attractive, right? That when somebody comes in connection with them, they are drawn to serve him, right? That it's not that there's a type of calculation that, oh, he's God and I'm supposed to bow to him and respect him. But it's that he is so beautiful, so charming, so attractive that I'm irresistibly drawn, right? I'm irresistibly drawn to give myself to him, right? So that's another thing that can like comfort us. It's not like we have to stand at the edge of the cliff and like force ourselves to jump off, like, oh, I have to force myself to think like this. Like I have to force myself to not want anything. No, that's not what's being asked. Actually, it will be automatic. It will be a natural response. If we actually have a touch of the sweetness of Krishna, if we have exposure to one drop of the sweetness of Sri Krishna, we will naturally feel like this, right? We will naturally feel like that all I want is to relish this one drop and I don't need anything else. I just want to remember this beauty and this sweetness. I want to have love for this beautiful divine being. And I don't need anything else, right? It's like from the other way around. It's not that we have to force ourselves to be at a certain level of sacrifice, but when we actually have darshan of that, this is how we will feel, right? And Krishna also is hinting at this in Bhagavad Gita, right? That Aham Sarvasva Prabhavo, that the first verse of the Chatur Shloki, Aham Sarvasva Prabhavo, Mata Sarvam Pravartate, Iti Matva Bhajante Mam, Buddha Bhava Samamvita. Krishna is saying that, I'm the source of everything, I'm the cause of everything. Those who realize this, they come to worship me with love, right? It's a natural response, that connecting with that divine source of all beauty, all love. I want to serve that. I want to love that. I want to die for that. I want to live for that. So it will be, we don't have to be afraid, right? It will be something natural that comes within us, and all we need to do is to keep an association, right? Go on with Shravan Kirtan, continue with our practices, our service life as much as possible. And all these things will come, right, in due course of time. Our gurus have left this inheritance for us, right? This is our birthright. It is our inheritance, actually. It's waiting for us. But now we are minors, right? We are not quite ready for that yet, right? But it will come, that day will come. Our gurus are keeping this treasure for us. And when we come of age, when we're mature, then that treasure will be given to us, right? So everything will happen in due course of time, the proper time. We simply try to cooperate. We try to cooperate with that higher movement, and everything will be revealed to us in time, as we are ready for it. Does that does that make sense, Prabhu?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm very satisfied with your answer.
Oh, Ramananda Prabhu, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to ask, like Gurudev used to say, wait and see. Can you explain on that something?
Wait and see. Wait and see. Yes, I think we can apply that here. Yes. Oh, wait, sorry, Prabhu. Was that a comment or a question?
A question.
Oh, then what was the question?
Yeah, so how to apply the wait and see. So Gurudev try to tell even Gurumai say the wait and see. Because we are in process of purification. We have to go through different levels, different things. Anartha then there are a lot of things happen.
Yes, yes. I mean, I can only agree with you. I can only.
Thank you for explaining earlier, Jagannath. Well, but the question was nice. That's our inspiration and aspiration. Yeah, that was nice explanation. Thank you, Vishal. Sorry, I joined a little late.
Oh, no, no problem. No problem. But yes, it is It is a long path. And Daryat, right? Rupa Goswami mentions that in Upadeshamrita. Patience, right? Patience. It
So
is.
how to balance utsaha and patience? It's very confusing thing. On one side they say be enthusiastic, then you they say patient.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? Enthusiasm and also patience. Well, let's put it like this, right? If you know that you may reach the goal after a million lifetimes, and you can still have enthusiasm to practice every day. That's a high thing. That's a wonderful thing. And that's what's being asked for us, right? Like Mukunda, right? Mahaprabhu's associate Mukunda, when he asked, "Oh, when can I come back?" Mukunda, he was in trouble. He got kicked out of Mahaprabhu's exclusive kirtan. And then he wanted to know, when can I come back? And Mahaprabhu said, after 10,000 lifetimes. And what was Mukunda's response?
About 10 million lifetimes, I think.
Perhaps 10 million, 10,000. Um, and he heard that, and Mukunda's jumping for joy. If we appreciate how high the goal is, then we will have utsaha. And this is the thing, and Srila Maharaj has also made this point that the here and now is also wonderful, right? It's not like we're just like, drowning in the ocean all the time and it's all misery and darkness and we're just like hanging in there waiting. It's not like that, the process is also very sweet, right? Of course, there are some days which are harder than others, but the practice is also very beautiful. To simply have this ideal is very wonderful. To contemplate these things, to know such a reality exists, that is also very wonderful. And that also uplifts us in the here and now, right? It is not like we're just hanging on the edge, in the end of our rope, it's all just gloom and darkness, right? And we have to hang in there for 10 million lifetimes. It's not like that, The practice is also very beautiful. And we have the ideal in our heart, and we are cultivating that ideal. We're remembering that ideal every day and sharing that with others, right? Also, in the spirit of distribution, there is so much joy and nourishment that can come. Why? Because we're dealing with something infinite. It's not that we can only experience that 10 million lifetimes from now, but we're getting a touch of it now, right? And that's also very fulfilling. A touch of the infinite is also infinite. Any connection with Krishna is infinite. The name of Krishna, that is infinite. So we are also getting a real connection with that here and now, and that is very fulfilling, right? That is very nourishing. And so that also gives us many reasons for utsaha, right? For enthusiasm to continue day by day, because we are getting some association here and now with divinity. We're getting a touch. We're experiencing a touch in the divinity here and now. Otherwise, why would we be here? Why would we be thinking about these things? Why would we be inspired to practice these things? Because we are getting some touch, right? It may be at a very basic level, but even that little brush of reality is so wonderful and enough to attract our hearts, right? So it is not all doom and gloom, right? It is, even in the here and now, there's so much nourishment and food for us, right? So that gives us reasons for enthusiasm. But we're also patient because we know we do have to face challenges along the way. And we also know that the ultimate attainment will take a long time. To get to the final attainment will be a long time. But in the meantime, we are busy and happy with what is in front of us, right? And then the interesting thing is that ultimately it is explained by our gurus, Abhideya and Prayojan, they merge into one, right? Abhideya is the practice, Prayojan is the goal. In the beginning, they're distinct and separate, but as the transformation of consciousness takes place, they merge. Because it's not that the activity will change, but it is the consciousness that will change, right? So we have much to be optimistic about, and we are hopeful. You can think of it like we're on a long journey, we're on a long road trip, we have a long way to go, and we have a particular destination in mind. But the journey along the way is also very nice, right? The scenery is also very nice, and we have companions in the car with us who are very nice. And so it's not all bad, you know. All right. Well,
Thank you very much, Vishaka Devi. Yeah.
thank you for your question, Peru, and your comments. Okay, well, maybe we'll stop there for today. Thank you all for.
Today is Balram's appearance day also.
What did you say, Prabhu?
Today is Balram's appearance day, Lord Balram's appearance day.
Oh no, really? Did I completely space that out? Is that today? Oh my goodness me.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I don't know, maybe
It's
she said this
actually tomorrow. I just checked our
tomorrow.
calendar. It's actually tomorrow.
Okay.
Baladev Purnima.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing that up. Now, I definitely won't forget tomorrow.
I
Yeah.
thought
Yeah.
it was today too, because today is really full moon. But I guess
Oh,
that's
oh,
ISKCON, because I'm going to Laguna Beach ISKCON temple celebrating tonight Balaram's
Yeah, in
appearance day.
ISKCON they are celebrating tonight.
you
Yeah.
know what? Probably it is today and on the Western calendar, but for the big festivals, we follow India. So, yeah, it must be tomorrow in Indian calculation. So that must be what it is. So it's today and tomorrow, I can say.
You get double the mercy. Thank you.
Jai Shri Baladev Purnima. We pray for strength in our spiritual life. Pray for his grace. He is the Adi Guru, right? He is the original Guru. We've been remembering Guru today, Guru principle. So we pray for his merciful shelter, especially as Sri Nityananda, right? He is the embodiment of divine mercy, divine grace. So we're happy to remember that today. Jai Shri Baladev Purnima ki Jai, Shri Nityananda Ram ki Jai, Jai Shri Gurudev ki Jai, all the assembled Vaishnavas, sincere seekers ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Jai Gaur Premanande, Vanchakalpa Tarubhyas Cha, Kripa Sindhubhyeva Cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Dandavat Pranams. Look forward to seeing you all next time. Have a beautiful day, evening.
Vishaka Didi Maharaj ki Jai.